You are listening to Contraband.
Look, I need to talk to some of our white contraband campers and some of our black ones too, because people know me for talking about and discussing history. And there's always one person everybody wants me to talk about. Look, I mean, I'm not a John Brown hater. He seemed kind of cool. But from what I've read about him, from what people who knew him, like Harriet Tubman, said, like, they really thought he was kind of crazy. Frederick Douglass told him, man, you're going to get more black folks put in chains than you're going to free. But the thing I want y'all to know is, like, there was more allies, more people who were down for the cause than just John Brown, right? So I'm going to help y'all out. I'm going to give y'all a few names. These are not in any particular order because the first one is probably one of my favorites. Cassius Marcellus Clay. If you're thinking what I'm thinking, yeah, like that's who Muhammad Ali was named after. He was a Kentucky slave owner from this prominent slave owning family who owned Muhammad Ali's ancestors. Cassius Clay's whole family was rich and powerful because they owned slaves, not like they didn't do anything special. They had a bunch of land because they owned slaves, and because they owned slaves, they got elected to office and essentially ran the state of Kentucky. He was privileged enough to be sent to Yale, and he heard some abolitionists speak, and he got elected to the Kentucky legislature, but he would always talk about, like, y'all need to free these enslaved people. An abolitionist who owns slaves seems kind of oxymoronic, but in huge families such as Clay's, the children collectively inherit like what their father built. So Cassius Marcellus Clay was living and part owner of that family estate, but he didn't have the authority to unilaterally free all the enslaved people. The other thing he was known for was fighting. Like, of course, there were white people who supported slavery. And when they called him out his name or just brought his name up, Cassius Clay was known to just punch people in the mouth. My favorite story about him, well, one of my favorites is that he was on the floor of the Senate one day and this dude talking sideways about him, and he shot Cassius Clay. But the bullet was lodged in a knife that he carried in his pocket. So he jumped on the man, pulled out his knife, cut the man's nose off, cut the man's ear off, and then beat him about half to death. Another story is that, like, another man was going to try to kill him, and they were, like, out scouting in the wilderness. And so Cassius Clay was like, yeah, I came out here because I heard you were going to kill me. And the man got so scared because he knew about Cassius Clay's reputation that he drowned himself in the river. He was a secret funder of Moses Dixon's Knights of Liberty, this group that was planning a nationwide slave revolt. Cassius Clay was very adamant that, like, we could just get the freed slaves to fight on our side. And he was a good friend of Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln made him ambassador to Russia and said, like, I need you to do me a favor. I've been thinking about what you've been saying to me. I first need you to go to Kentucky to make sure, like, nobody's going to flip out. But Cassius Clay, like, who going to tell him? No. So he went down there, went to the state legislature and told him, like, this what we going to do. He owned an abolitionist newspaper and it got attacked so many times, literally, like, they shot it up with a cannon, so that he moved it to Cincinnati, and the Knights of Liberty and Moses Dixon was his, like, security. So he stopped through Cincinnati and told Moses Dixon, hey, man, Abraham Lincoln, he showed me this document. So y'all don't even have to do the slave revolt. Like, just sit tight and let your boys sign up for the Union Army. So that's what the Knights of Liberty did. They eventually ended up signing up with the Union Army. And Cassius Clay went and delivered his message to Lincoln, and Lincoln was satisfied enough to issue the Emancipation Proclamation. And Lincoln issued it. He said the chief ally in emancipating the enslaved people was Cassius Clay. And when Cassius Clay died, they wrote these long, beautiful obituaries about how he loved to fight, how he wouldn't take no mess off anybody, how he was such an honest man. But his only real flaw, his worst flaw, was that he was adamant about Negro equality, which they thought was crazy. So all of his obituaries said, like, yeah, this was his only fault, right? He was too crazy about black people. Next up, How about General David Hunter? General David Hunter was a general in the Union Army, and the governor of Connecticut sent him a gift. Say, hey, I want to send you this. This might help you with the war you're fighting in the South. And it was this woman named Harriet Tubman. And Harriet Tubman and David Hunter got real close. Harriet Tubman kept telling him, like, hey, we could win this war if you just free these black people. So on his own, David Hunter issued General Orders number 7 and 11, which said, and this is a quote, right? The persons in these 3 states, Georgia, Florida, and South Carolina, heretofore held as slaves, are therefore declared forever free. Man, Lincoln was so mad that, like, he don't got no authority to free the slaves, but it was too late. Slaves had started freeing themselves. Lincoln had to issue the First and the Second Confiscation Act, which was the origin of the term contraband. Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy, like, put a bounty out on his head, and Hunter wrote him a letter. And this is a quote from the letter. You say you're fighting for liberty. Yeah, you're fighting for liberty. Liberty to keep 4 million of your fellow beings in ignorance and degradation. Liberty to separate parents and children, husband and wife, brother and sister. Liberty to steal the products of their labor, exacted with many a cruel lash and bitter tear. Liberty to seduce their wives and daughters and to sell your own children into bondage. Liberty to kill those children with impunity when the murder cannot be proven by one of pure white blood. This is the kind of liberty, the liberty to do wrong, which Satan, chief of the fallen angels, was contending for when he was cast into hell. But don't worry, you'll join him soon. So yeah, man, that's my dude, David Hunter. Passmore Williams was also one of